presentation will cover the concept proposal application. The concept proposal application is contained in the FAST system in a series of tabs. For this presentation, we'll focus on the general information, project budget, questionnaire, and attachment tabs. It is important to answer all of the questions in the concept proposal application because failure to answer one or more of them may result in a proposal being disqualified. The first tab is the General Information tab, and it contains 4 items. Under Applicant Organization, enter the legal name of the organization that will serve as lead for the project and will receive grant funds. Under Submitting Organization, enter the name of the organization submitting the concept proposal application. In most cases, this is the same as the applicant organization. However, if a grant writer prepares a concept proposal application on behalf of an applicant, you must disclose the grant writing organization to prevent possible conflicts of interest during the review process. Next, provide a title that concisely describes your project in 15 words or less. Please avoid using acronyms here. Lastly, provide a project description. Think of this as an abstract or a one-paragraph overview of your project. Remember, this is the first section of your proposal that reviewers will read. It should summarize exactly what your project will do, using clear language and avoiding jargon. A good project description briefly covers the core components of the proposed project, including a description of the problem, how the project will address it, what the expected outcomes are, and how you will evaluate them. If you are interested, you can find titles and descriptions for previously funded projects on our website. Next is the Project Budget tab. This tab provides a summary of the project budget. For funds requested, enter the total amount of Specialty Crop Block Grant Program or SCBGP funds you're seeking for your project. This amount must match Category I in the budget template that you will attach to your concept proposal application in FAST, and must be between $50,000 and $450,000, or between $50,000 and $100,000 for the Additional Assistance Program. Please note that a request outside of this range may result in a proposal being disqualified. For local cost match, estimate the amount of cost share committed to your project. Cost share includes matching funds and in-kind contributions. To clarify the difference, matching funds refers to a dollar amount committed to your project from a source other than SCBGP. An in-kind contribution is the estimated dollar value of any time, property, or supplies donated to your project. An example of an in-kind contribution would be someone working on your project that is not paid. You would estimate the value of their in-kind contribution based on what they would typically be paid for similar work. Cost share is not required, but it is viewed favorably by the Technical Review Committee as an indicator of industry support. Also note that this amount does not get reported on the budget template. And lastly, under Total Budget, enter the sum of the funds requested and the local cost match. The Questionnaire tab contains the 11 sections that make up the core of the concept proposal. These include the 7 items that will be scored, and there are 50 points possible. The first section is Organization Type. For this question, select the organization type that best describes the applicant. The options are nonprofits, for-profits, local, state, federal, and tribal government agencies, and colleges and universities. As mentioned before, individuals are not eligible to apply. This question is unscored. Section 2 is where you'll select a funding area and funding category. Please read the full description of the funding areas and categories in the Request for Concept Proposals or RFCP. Then select the most appropriate funding area and category for your project from the drop-down menu. We understand that projects might seem to address elements from multiple funding categories. However, you must select the one funding category that most closely aligns with the primary focus of your project. The funding category is a key part of your application, since the proposed project will be evaluated on how it addresses a need for the specialty crop industry within the selected category. Further, the funding category determines which committee will review your concept proposal application, ensuring that your application is evaluated by reviewers with the relevant area of expertise. It is important to note that funding categories cannot be changed at any time after the concept proposal application is submitted, which means misidentified proposal applications cannot be reassigned. Therefore, it is vital to select carefully so that your proposal can be evaluated adequately. This question is unscored. Section 3 addresses program priorities. In the RSVP, each funding category has a list of associated program priorities. These priorities serve as a guide to the general issues impacting the specialty crop industry within each funding category. Program priorities should correlate with the specific existing issue, problem, or need of the specialty crop industry that your project will address. All projects must address at least one priority, and please note that proposals that select multiple program priorities do not receive extra consideration. At least one of the priorities must be associated with the funding category you identified for Section 2, and we ask that you copy and paste the program priorities exactly as written in the RFCP. Please do not alter them in any way, and provide a brief explanation of how the project will address each priority selected. This question is worth 5 points. Section 4 looks at the project purpose. This will be where you describe how your project answers the question, is the project a priority for the specialty crop industry? There will be 2 text boxes provided for this question. In the first text box, thoroughly explain the issue, problem, or need of the specialty crop industry that your project will address. Be sure to discuss this in relation to the funding category and program priorities you have identified. Remember to describe how your project targets an external problem facing the specialty crop industry rather than an internal problem facing your organization. Describe the issue in detail and use data to support your arguments. Also, be sure to establish why your organization is well equipped to address this issue. In the second text box, explain why the issue you identified is important and timely for the specialty crop industry. This is also the place to list the specific specialty crops that will be affected if possible. Keep in mind, the ultimate purpose of all projects must be to enhance the competitiveness of California specialty crops. This question is worth 10 points. The next section, 5, asks whether the proposal you are submitting builds upon a previous project that was funded by the SCBGP. If your proposed project builds upon a previously funded project, select yes from the drop-down menu provided. In the first text box, provide the grant number for the previous project. And in the second text box, explain how the proposed project differs from and builds upon the previous work. The key thing to note here is that the SCBGP cannot fund projects that duplicate work done in prior projects, so it is important to thoroughly describe how the proposed project is different from any previous projects. Also, note that if your organization has received funding in the past for an unrelated project, it is not necessary to disclose that here. If your proposal does not build upon a prior year SCBGP project, select no from the drop-down menu. This question is unscored. Section 6 is about project sustainability. USDA and CDFA want awarded projects to have a long-term impact without relying indefinitely on grant funding. Therefore, for this question, in the text box provided, explain how your project will become self-sustaining beyond the grant duration. For example, if your project will create a new program, outline a plan for how the program will continue to exist after the end of the grant period. Or, for projects that will not continue beyond the grant duration, describe how the results of your project will continue to benefit California's specialty crop industry after the project is complete. For example, a research project may post findings on a website that will continue to be accessible after the grant duration. This question is worth 5 points. Section 7 asks about identifying and describing the project beneficiaries. In the first text box, estimate the approximate number of project beneficiaries. This number should be realistic, trackable, and reportable. In the second text box, describe how the number of beneficiaries was determined, who the beneficiaries are, and how they will benefit from the results of the project. Note that beneficiaries identified should be direct or primary beneficiaries of the project results. This typically does not include secondary beneficiaries, such as, for example, employees of the applicant organization or all the farmers in California. Also, keep in mind that projects directly benefiting a single individual or organization are not allowable. It is expected that projects will benefit some segment of the specialty crop industry. And lastly, if possible, identify the specific specialty crops that will be affected. This question is worth 5 points. Section 8 is where project outcome measures are selected. You won't select or provide information regarding the outcome measures in FAST. Instead, click the link in Section 8 to download and save the Microsoft Word Outcome Measures template to your computer. Open the saved document, fill in your information, save it again, and then upload the completed Word document in the Attachments tab. After you've uploaded it, we recommend that you open the document in FAST to confirm that it is correct. In the template, you will identify one or more outcome measures to demonstrate that the project will enhance the competitiveness of California specialty crops. Another presentation covers the outcome measures more thoroughly, so we won't go into further detail here. The outcome measures template is worth 10 points. Section 9 confirms the project duration. The maximum grant duration for SCBGP projects is 2 years and 6 months, or 2 years for the Additional Assistance Program. Projects cannot start before November 1, 2020, or end after April 30th, 2023. When you enter your dates in FAST, make sure to use a 2-digit month, 2-digit day, and 4-digit year format. Note that any dates outside of this range may result in disqualification. We don't assume that a date outside of the range is a typo, so please double check this before submitting. This question is unscored. Section 10 is about the project work plan and outreach. In the first text box, describe the proposed plan to accomplish the project work. List the activities that will be conducted to ensure that the project objectives and selected outcome measures can be achieved. The work plan should also indicate who will be responsible for each activity. Note that anyone who is designated to receive funding in the budget must be listed in the work plan. And estimate when each activity will occur. Be sure the dates for all activities are within the specified duration for the project. In the second text box, describe the project's outreach component. In other words, how the project results will be shared with the target audience, stakeholders, and other interested parties beyond those directly involved with the project. Some examples of outreach include conference presentations, journal articles, educational materials, or website content. This question is worth 10 points. The last section of the questionnaire tab, number 11, is the budget template. As with the outcome measures, you won't actually fill out your project budget in FAST. Click the link in section 11 to download and save the Microsoft Word budget template to your computer, open the saved document, fill in your information, save it again, and then upload the completed Word document in the Attachments tab. After you've uploaded it, again, we recommend that you open the document in FAST to confirm that it is correct. All items listed in your budget template must support enhancing the competitiveness of specialty crops and directly relate to the project objectives. The budget template is worth 5 points. For both the outcome measures and budget templates, there are a few specific issues to keep in mind that could result in the disqualification of your concept proposal application. Submitting an incorrect or incomplete template, which would also include any modification of the template, attaching a blank template by mistake, or forgetting to attach your template. Once again, please double check to make sure you attach the correct outcome measures and budget templates to your application before you submit. Here are a few tips to consider as you prepare your budget. Make sure all of your requested costs are allowable. If your budget includes a substantial amount of unallowable costs, the proposal may be disqualified. Therefore, we strongly encourage you to reference the allowable and unallowable costs and activities table. Ensure all costs are justified and directly support the project objectives. Reviewers want to know why you need the items requested and how they relate to the project activities. In the concept proposal phase, just a basic description of cost is adequate. Ensure that your cost estimates are reasonable and realistic. We understand that at this point, your budget is a best estimate based on current information. However, we ask that you do your homework to ensure your estimates aren't over or understated. If your project advances to the grant proposal phase, your budget shouldn't change by more than 10%. So it's important to ensure your concept proposal budget is a realistic estimate. Lastly, please double check your math to make sure you have the correct total. Attention to detail shows that you took care in preparing your proposal. And please start your applications early. Don't wait until the day applications are due to start your budget template. One last item before we get into the budget template is the difference between direct and indirect costs. Direct costs can be identified specifically with a particular award, project, or activity, or directly assigned to an award, project, or activity relatively easily with a high degree of accuracy. On the other hand, indirect costs, which are also known as facilities and administrative costs, are incurred for common or joint objectives and cannot be easily identified specifically with a particular award, project, or activity. These typically include costs associated with running your organization as a whole, like administrative staff salaries, rent, utilities, and office supplies. As we go through the following slides, keep in mind that all costs listed in categories A through G should be direct costs. Indirect costs should be listed in category H only. This is what the budget template looks like. First, you'll enter your proposal identification number or PIN at the top of the page. This is the unique 5-digit number assigned to your project by FAST. In the amount requested column, you'll enter the total amount of SCBGP funds you're requesting for each budget category, rounded to the nearest whole dollar. In the brief description column, you'll list the costs or activities to be covered. A description is required for each budget category in which funds are requested, except for category H, which is indirect costs, and category I, which is total SCBGP funds requested. We will go over each budget category, but for instructions on what information to provide in the description, please reference page 20 of the RFCP. Lastly, a completed sample budget is available on page 33 of the RFCP. Please note that this is just an example provided to illustrate what a completed budget might look like. The first category is category A, salary and wages. This is where you'll list the total estimated cost of salary and wages for time spent working on the project by employees of the applicant organization. In the description column, please list the title of each employee and the amount of time they'll be working on the project. For hourly employees, that would just be the number of hours, but for salaried employees, that would be the percent full-time equivalent. Please note that we do not need to see a year-by-year breakdown, only the total amount requested for each. Category B is fringe benefits. Fringe includes benefits like paid leave, health insurance, pensions, and unemployment, and is calculated as a percentage of an employee's salary. In the amount requested column, list the total estimated fringe benefits cost for employees of the applicant organization determined in accordance with the applicant's established fringe benefits policy. In the description column, provide the approximate fringe benefit rate and the types of benefits included. Category C is travel. Under amount requested, list the total estimated cost of travel for all individuals except contractual personnel. When preparing your travel cost estimate, please use the per diem amount required by the U.S. General Services Administration, or GSA. These rates vary by location, so look up the appropriate rates using the GSA website. You will find a link to the GSA website included at the bottom of the budget template. Although your budget is only an estimate at this stage, please use the GSA per diem rates to ensure your costs are not excessively high. Note that per diem rates for the first and last days of travel are not the same as for full days of travel. Also, keep in mind that state-funded and state-sponsored travel to states with discriminatory laws is prohibited. You can find the current list of states subject to California's ban in the RFCP on page 25. In the description column, describe the travel that will be needed to accomplish the project objectives. Category D is scientific research equipment. This is where you'll list the cost to purchase any scientific research equipment needed for your project. To be considered scientific research equipment, an item must cost $5,000 per unit or more and be used only for research, scientific, or other technical activities. This includes items like specialized microscopes, spectrometers, and other lab equipment. In the description column, list the name of the item to be purchased. It's important to clarify that purchasing general purpose equipment is not allowable under the SCBGP. That means you cannot purchase any non-scientific items that cost more than $5,000 with SCBGP funds. That includes things like vehicles, refrigerators, and tractors. However, costs to rent general purpose equipment may be allowable, and that would be included in Category G, Other. Category E is supplies. Enter the total estimated cost for supplies in the amount requested column. Supplies refer to items that cost less than $5,000 per unit and are used exclusively for the objectives of the project. It's important that you do not include indirect costs in this category, including general use office supplies or facilities costs. In the description column, list the types of supplies the project anticipates purchasing. Category F is for the project's estimated contractual costs. For the purposes of the SCBGP, any organization other than the applicant that will work on the project and receive grant funds is considered a contractor. For amount requested, list the total estimated cost of any work to be performed by organizations other than the applicant. Typical costs under contractual include consultants or project cooperators from other organizations. This amount should include all of the budget costs associated with each contractor, including salary, travel, supplies, etc. In the description column, list the names of the contractors, if known, and the types of services needed. Note that the Office of Management and Budget has developed guidelines for determining appropriate rates for contractors. A link to this information can be found at the bottom of the budget template. Please ensure you do not exceed the maximum allowable rate. Category G is for any other costs. For amount requested, provide the estimated total of all other project costs. Examples of costs that should be listed under Other include registration fees, speaker fees, fees to publish project results in professional journals, costs for data collection and analysis, and meeting space or equipment rentals. In the description column, be sure to provide a brief explanation of the types of costs included. As mentioned, Category H is where you'll indicate the amount of indirect costs requested for your project. Remember that the indirect costs are the facilities and administrative costs that cannot easily be tied directly to the activities of the grant. The maximum allowable indirect rate under the SCBGP is 8% of total personnel costs. To calculate this amount, add Category A, salary and wages, plus Category B, fringe benefits, and multiply the total by 0.08. The amount you list under Category H cannot exceed this number. For this budget category, no description is required. Category I is where you'll indicate the total SCBGP funds requested. Add up the amount requested for budget categories A through H and enter this amount under Category I. This amount must match the amount you listed under funds requested on the first tab we discussed, the Project Budget tab. Again, the total funds requested cannot be less than $50,000 or greater than $450,000, or $100,000 for the Additional Assistance Program. And also, for this budget category, no description is required. And lastly, Category J is Program Income. If your project will generate income, in the amount requested column, list the total estimated amount of income that could be generated by your project. Under the description column, explain the activities that would generate program income and how the income would be used to support the project objectives. Please note that program income cannot be used as profit for an organization or to support unallowable costs. Also, note that program income is not required and does not influence scoring. Finally, there are a number of resources and links available on the SCBGP website to help you as you're completing your proposal. These include the allowable and unallowable costs and activities table, the questions and answers from our 3 rounds of Q&A, and links to recordings of our webinar. That concludes the concept proposal application presentation.